Hello everyone and welcome to this free iOS training. My name is Sean Williams and thanks for joining me. Today we are going to be talking about VoiceOver, but before we do that, let me just cover what we are going to be talking about in these free iOS training videos. Exactly what did you come to see and what did you sign up for? So this week we'll talk all things VoiceOver, and I'll leave plenty of time for you guys to ask any questions that you may have. Next week we will be going down the list. So if you've ever gone down the accessibility list, you'll see a vision heading, then you'll see VoiceOver, Zoom, magnifier, etc., etc. So essentially it's going to be free iOS training as promised, but I want to dive deeper into the accessibility realm of things other than vision and VoiceOver, because that's usually what is presented, and that's fine. No problem there. It's just I think that a lot of people would be interested to know of other accessibility features as well. And we'll be covering nice, awesome apps that you can use and apps that I have found to recommend to people. And so without any further ado, let's start with VoiceOver. So I'm going to assume that you guys have a basic knowledge of VoiceOver, and so you'll know about flicking to the right, flicking to the left, double tapping selects your, and if not, I'll go briefly through what you can expect with VoiceOver. So flicking to the right will put you on the next item. Flicking to the left, like you're flicking a piece of dust, will put you back to the previous item, and double tapping will select the item. If you wish to touch and drag, maybe that can be faster sometimes. For example, if you're in a web page and you maybe want to get somewhere quicker, you can do that by just holding your finger down and dragging your finger across the screen. And there is a gesture that I have found that comes in handy. It's called split tapping. Essentially what split tapping is let's say you're dragging your finger across the settings screen. It doesn't have to be the internet. I just gave Safari as an example. And you find something like accessibility or something like that. Let's say you want to go into accessibility. What you do is you put one finger on the screen and then put another finger on the screen. And in doing that, that is called split tapping. In other words, you already have one finger held on the screen, and if you just tap one finger, or the other finger rather, on the screen, then it will select the item for you. I don't use split tapping very much, but that is a way to, that is a gesture that I thought I'd make you familiar with. Now, we do have some a participant in the room. Are you familiar with the basics of VoiceOver?
Yes.
Okay. So now we will move on to the advanced. Some things that you may not have known about VoiceOver. For those who don't know, VoiceOver is a screen reader built into your iPhone. And you can find it by going to Settings, Accessibility, and then choosing VoiceOver. So some advanced features of VoiceOver that I found. One that is the hardest for anyone, or not anyone, but a lot of people, I apologize, would be the rotor. The rotor has always been difficult, and essentially what you've had to do in the past is you've had to take two fingers, you've had to do a counterclockwise or a clockwise turn, kind of like you were turning a dial. Well, now within iOS 13, this is where the advanced kind of thing comes. You can now customize your gestures. So how does one do that? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect my iPhone to the interface so you can listen to what my iPhone is doing, and you can perhaps follow along. So there we go. Okay, so For reference, I have an iPhone 10s Max,
4:13 p.m.
and should be coming through the interface.
Sunday, 4:13 p.m.
Oh no, it's not. Hold on.
4:14 p.m. YouTube navigation folder, 12 app edit mode. Retain navigation.
There we go. Now it is. So I just had to unplug it and plug it back in. So now we'll ask our virtual assistant to open accessibility settings, or better yet, you can say, open VoiceOver settings.
Here are the VoiceOver settings.
Is that loud enough?
Audio.
I mean, I can hear okay. I just want to know, is that loud enough for you guys to hear? Hopefully so.
Button.
Okay, so
Audio.
what we'll do.
Accessible voiceover speaks items on the screen.
Okay, so I'm just flicking to the right,
Tap once to select an item. Double tap to activate the selected item.
and I'm gonna purposely just keep flicking to the right so that way you guys can hear some of the kind of the basics.
Swipe
if
3
you're new.
fingers to scroll. Swipe 3 fingers to scroll. To go home, slide 1 finger up from the bottom edge until you feel the first vibration and lift your finger.
Let me touch on that really quick as we make our way down to the commands area. So that is only relevant if you are running an iPhone 10, or if you have an iPhone 10 or later. Otherwise, you press the little round button, which is the home button.
To use the app switch to go home, to use the app switcher, slide up farther from the bottom until you feel a second vibration and lift your finger.
Okay, that you would. That's again only applies to the iPhone 10 and above. The app switcher for the earlier iPhones is the home button twice quickly.
To use Control Center, slide 1 finger down from the top edge until you feel the first vibration and lift your finger.
Alternatively, you can do a 3-finger swipe up from toward the top of the screen.
To use Notification Center, slide down farther from the top until you feel a second vibration and lift your finger.
That would be a 3-finger swipe down from the top of the screen.
To use Reachability,
On older iPhones?
To use Reachability, slide 1 finger up from the bottom edge until you feel the first vibration, then swipe down to bring the top into reach.
Okay, this one was a little bit interesting. So essentially what you have to do for reachability, let me explain what reachability is, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's go to the commands area.
VoiceOver.
Apologize for that.
Speak, verbal, braille, audio, commands.
Here we go. So this is where you customize your commands if you want to change a gesture. This was again introduced in iOS 13. So let's double tap here.
All commands, button.
Alright, so we have
Commands, heading.
okay, so we have a commands heading. We have all commands.
All commands, touch gestures, button. Keyboard shortcuts, button. Commands are prefixed with the VoiceOver modifier key, Control plus Option.
That's if you're using a keyboard.
Handwriting, button. Braille screen input, button. Reset VoiceOver commands, button.
That's always handy to have that there.
Reset.
Okay, so
commands are
you would
prefixed
want to
with the
go.
Keyboard shortcut, touch gesture, all commands, button.
You'd want to go to touch gestures,
Touch
I
gestures,
believe.
button, tap, 1 finger, heading, 1 finger single tap, speak item, 1 finger double tap, activate, dimmed,
Okay, so right now they're all grayed out.
1 finger triple tap, perform long press, 1 finger quadruple tap, secondary activate, tap, 2 fingers, heading, 2 finger single tap, toggle speech.
Now, one thing I'm not sure of is why those first ones were dimmed.
Command, setting, touch gestures, heading,
see here.
search, dictate, tap, 1 finger, heading, 1 finger single tap, speak item, dimmed, 1 finger single,
Yeah,
1 finger
that's-
double tap, activate, dimmed, capo, edit,
Doesn't
characters,
seem like you can actually.
edit, copy, copy,
Nope, you cannot. There's no customizing that.
tap, Two finger single
So
tap.
let's try to get to the rotor.
Two finger triple two finger quadruple tap. 3 fingers. Heading. 3 finger single tap. Read item summary. 3 finger double tap. 3 finger tap. 4 finger. 4 fingers. 4 finger double. 4 finger. 4 finger swipe. 1 finger swipe left. Move to previous item. Dimmed. 1 finger swipe right. Move to next item. Dimmed. 1 finger swipe up. Previous rotor item.
Okay, good. Looks like we're getting back to the rotor almost.
1 finger swipe down. Next rotor item. Swipe. 2 fingers. Heading. 2 finger swipe left. 2 finger swipe right. 2 finger swipe up. 2 finger swipe down. Swipe. 3 finger. 3 finger. 3 finger. Swipe. 4 finger. 4 finger swipe up. 4 finger swipe down.
And you'll notice that a lot of some of these gestures aren't even used yet.
Rotate. Heading.
Here it is. Rotate.
2 finger rotate counterclockwise. Previous rotor.
Excuse me. Okay. So let's say we wanted to change that. We double tap this.
Cancel. Commands. Search. Dictate. Interaction. Heading. Activate. Secondary activate. Magic tap.
So basically, what happens if, right now that is replaced? I believe we were on
Escape. Perform. Basic
the
navigation.
rotor gesture.
Heading. Move to previous item.
So we can essentially swap the counterclockwise for any of these commands.
Move to next item.
So that's
Move to
a
first
little bit
item.
looking at the
Move to item above.
commands area.
Select.
And I can touch on
2
that
finger rotate
if you have any
counterclockwise.
other questions.
Previous rotor.
But, or if you have any questions in
All
the
commands. Button.
at the
I
end.
wanted to know initially, let's see here, you went to control, oh shoot. Got two file windows open here.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, you went into voice over gestures,
Uh-huh.
and you got there by, what did you do?
Okay, sure. So I'll do it again. So what I
Did you go to
did.
accessibility?
Yep, I did. I went to accessibility, then I went to voiceover, and then I went to.
Accessibility.
So-
Voiceover. Heading.
All right, so we'll go.
Voiceovers. Tap.
We'll
double
flick to the
swipe
right.
To go to use voice speaking speak verbose braille audio
Oops.
speaking verbose braille audio button.
Okay, I believe I went into audio.
Sounds in audio auto during send to HDMI.
No, I'm sorry. I did
Voiceover.
not- I'm
Voiceover.
sorry.
Dub cache large nav always type rotor rotor active commands.
There we go.
Button.
Commands. I went to commands.
Audio
Okay, so within voiceover you went to command.
Yep, and it's to the right of audio.
commands.
Okay.
Yep.
And when you're in voiceover, to get to commands, are you swiping to the right or from the right to the left?
I am swiping to the right to go to the next item.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, let's see here. When you got to rotor,
Mm-hmm.
or go to rotate, I have here, you double tapped on that, and then you went down and selected the gesture you wanted to replace the twisting motion with. Is that
Right.
correct?
I didn't actually select anything, but you can do that. Like if that twisting motion, if you want to change the rotors to the rotor to something else, what I am noticing is that not everything is, is replaceable. I guess you might say.
Okay.
And in other words, you can't customize everything, which is kind of interesting, kind of weird, but it is something that I have had a lot of issues with in the past. I guess the whole rotor concept, and from what I've talked to Apple Accessibility, they have also had issues with that as well. And as far as individuals catching on to that. So the commands feature aims to address that issue of, okay, let's, for example, the big one, let's make the rotor easier by maybe doing a 3-finger triple tap or something like that to replace that.
Okay. I don't have any trouble with the rotor except for when I get to, I think it's called controls. You have the characters, words, and then controls, one of the options in the rotor.
I believe so. Yes.
And that one, I have no clue what that is or how to work with it because I've done up and down swipes and right to left swipes. And
That's what you should do, is up and down normally. The only exception that I've seen would be the if you go to, shoot, I'm drawing a blank. I apologize. Hold on. Misspelled words. Then you have to swipe left or right. And I don't use misspelled words, honestly, a lot. Actually, I don't really use it at all. I just kind of, if I have a personal assistant nearby, then I'll ask them how to spell something if it's something difficult.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, dear Alexas and things like that.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Yeah, that control, I just didn't understand what was under that and how to work with whatever choices you have within it.
Right. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at that. So
Caption. Double tap. Large. Nav. Always. Type it.
I need to go to the right. Oops, no.
To go to
Just flicking to the right really quickly.
command. Activity. Rotor.
Rotor. Here we go.
Selected. Characters.
Okay, so these are all the things I have in my rotor. I don't like my rotor very cluttered. So I'll flick to the right.
Reorder characters. Button.
And I don't feel like reordering them, but you could if you wanted to, if you
Wait for
really
the
wanted
sound,
words
then
before
drag to
characters or something
rearrange.
like that.
Selected. Words. Selected. Lines. Selected. Speaking rate. Selected. Volume. Audio ducking.
I choose to keep audio ducking off,
Move down. Move up.
and you can move down, move up. You can move it before
Reorder volume.
volume.
Selected. Volume.
Now I'm questioning myself. Why do I have volume selected? I don't know. Oh well, it doesn't make that much difference.
Real punctuation.
All right.
Selected.
A lot of these I don't
Sounds.
have selected, but I do have sounds selected because I create outlines and stuff like that, and normally I don't like the sounds to be present.
Reorder. Selected. Hint.
And hints, that's always helpful as well. I turn hints off whenever I'm using my braille display.
Reorder.
And
hint.
sounds and speech. I basically have a silent iPhone.
Selected. Braille screen input.
Okay, so braille screen input's something that we are going to touch on today because that is definitely an advanced feature. A very, very, very fun one as well. But we will touch on that.
Reorder handwriting.
And handwriting, I don't
Select
honestly,
action.
I don't really use handwriting very much. I mean, it can be done. It's just, I don't know. I would rather use a pencil if I'm going to write my signature, personally.
Reorder handwriting. Containers.
And all these, of course, you see that you can reorder. Containers are more, I think, for like web pages and stuff like that. I don't see them very often. Sometimes.
Reorder. Selected. Headings.
Headings are very useful
Swipe
for
up
web
and down to
pages.
select a selected. Links.
And I think you were looking for
Reorder
controls.
selected. Form control. Reorder.
Oh! Were you talking about form controls?
Well, let's see. When I start to use my rotor, I usually see characters,
Mhm.
words, and then it's after words. I think it's controls. Let me see, I could get to it here.
Table. Reordered. List.
I'm looking for it.
Landmarks. Visited. Visited link. Non-visited. link
Containers,
selected.
that's what it's called.
Oh, containers? I honestly, I don't use it. I really don't
Okay.
use containers very much. I don't really see the need to.
Okay.
Maybe that's just me, but I honestly, what I do is I just go and I just unselected containers and unselected everything pretty much that I didn't want. And audio destination actually, with that, I don't really have an. I think that one might be one that just appears because I'm not seeing audio
Reorder
destination.
slide to type.
I'm looking.
Button. Slide to type.
And
Personally,
usually all I
I
use is
don't like
characters.
slide to type.
Reorder.
Because, like, if I'm doing a blood glucose or something, I just want to know exactly what that number is.
So you just go by character.
I just go up and down swipe
Right.
up and down with my finger to know what the character is. Yeah, that's
Right.
about all I
Reorder
ever
braille
use the
table.
rotor for.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, reorder braille table. Button. Selected. Braille table. Dimmed.
Oh, wow.
Scroll
And that's
down
actually.
to move down. Activate.
Wow,
Default.
that's actually okay. Yeah, so some of these they're in the rotor, but they're grayed out. So I guess some of them you'll have to live with. That makes sense. Like there's one I think it's called media descriptions. I don't think it's in this rotor, but if you're on a video, for example, or if you're on YouTube, media descriptions will pop up. And I don't think I saw a rotor gesture for media descriptions, or if I did, something happened where I just
Reorder. Selected.
I'm looking.
Audio destination.
oh I do have that selected
Swipe up
actually.
on selected. Audio destination.
So
Activities.
what I found with that, I have not found audio destination just to be, snap of the finger available. Like that seems to only be available in certain situations. Like I guess one place where I can see it being available is if I were to play like music or something like that. But I haven't seen audio destinations to be available very much. Oh, and that's my
Wait.
computer.
When you're using a web app such as shopping on Walmart or something like that, Instacart,
Mhm.
do you use your rotor at all?
Yeah, I will. I use my rotor quite a lot. So you mentioned Walmart, so I had the Instacart app. I don't use Instacart, so I'm like, okay, well, why do I have an app that I don't even use? So I deleted it. But the Walmart app, I can, if I'm looking at a particular item, I'll usually just flick, but sometimes, especially on web pages, I'll go by headings. I definitely use the word rotor gesture, just to, if I find it really useful within notes. Like if I double tap, it'll go to the top of the notes, the bottom of the notes, wherever. But I use the Notes app daily, and so it really depends. I mostly use the rotor within Safari. Of course, you're going to be using that a lot. And I also use the rotor for Braille screen input. So let's talk about that. So Braille screen input, that has been available since iOS 9, but surprisingly a lot of people don't know about it. So what is it? Braille screen input is a way you can type in Braille on the phone, and the downside, I guess you might say, is that you don't have a Braille display with it. But think of it as like if anyone who is watching this video, if you guys have ever seen a Braille and Speak or saw a blind person using something that was just a Braille keyboard, chances are it might have been a Braille and Speak or a voice note or something like that. Anyway, what I'm getting at is it's like that. So the phone can become a virtual Braille keyboard. And so the way to invoke Braille screen input is you first have to select it within the rotor, and you double tap on Braille screen input. Then you go to, you have to go to the Braille screen input settings, because you need to select what your Braille table is. So let me show you that so you get a better idea. And I accidentally just locked my phone. There we go.
VoiceOver.
Okay.
Back button.
So we're in VoiceOver where we need to be.
Rotor.
Oh,
VoiceOver.
we need to go back. Another useful gesture that I've found that's more of an advanced gesture is a two finger scrub back and forth. That easily allows me to, let's say, get out of VoiceOver. So I do a 2-finger scrub from left to right or right to left. And we're back out of
Settings. Back button.
Now we're in settings. Now
Accessibility.
we're in accessibility. But one thing I didn't touch on earlier, I'll touch on that as soon as I touch on Braille screen input, so that way I'm not jumping all over the place.
Vision. VoiceOver.
Okay, let's go into VoiceOver.
VoiceOver. To go to use the apps.
All right, so you'll want to go to Braille. So in this instance, I am going to drag.
To voice.
I know Braille's almost at the bottom.
Button.
Oh, yep, Braille should be on the left.
Button. Speech. Verbosity.
Oh,
Button.
almost.
Verbosity. Braille.
I don't normally drag my finger like that, but you can do, of course, do a scroll up, which is a, let's see.
Rows free to 17 of 17. Rows free to 17 of 17.
Anyway, that's scroll up, I believe, is 3-finger swipe up, and scroll down, 3-finger swipe down, if I'm not getting the two mixed up.
VoiceOver speaks. Tap once.
Anyway, so let's go to Braille.
Verbosity. Button. Braille.
We'll flick to the right from verbosity. We'll double tap Braille.
Output. Alert. Bluetooth is off.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bluetooth is required.
So essentially what it's doing is it's saying, hey, you need Bluetooth on to connect to your Braille display. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera all the time. Anyway, there we go. So let's go.
No. Button.
I don't want to.
Bluetooth is required. No.
I don't want to turn on Bluetooth at the moment.
VoiceOver.
So we need to go into Braille
Button.
here. After we've selected Braille screen input in our rotor,
Braille.
settings.
Heading. Out. Input. Braille screen input.
Here we go.
Contracted.
So
Button.
Braille screen input contracted. By default, the thing that needs to be known here is that this will most likely be selected to Unified English Braille, or UEB. So input is selected to contracted for me.
Turn on Bluetooth to use it. Braille table. Status. Braille tables. 1. Button.
Okay, so let's see here.
Status cells. Button. Turn on Bluetooth. Braille screen input.
Okay.
Contracted.
Good.
Button.
And then so that would be it actually, because I was just thinking about Braille screen, or I was thinking about screen out or Braille output, but that's of course on the Braille display. So we'll
I
keep
have a
going.
question.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Once you've selected this in your VoiceOver settings, does that have to be turned off in VoiceOver in order to not have it activated in the rotor? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I don't always want the Braille feature on. So do I have to go all the way back to turn it off in VoiceOver?
Oh, no. That would be very, very, very cumbersome. So what you do is
Yes.
well, yeah, and it would drive me up the wall. So what you do is you simply navigate, you rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise until you get to like characters or something like that. And Braille screen input just disappears. It's back to regular typing.
Okay.
Yep. So
Turn on Bluetooth to Braille.
we'll go down.
Cells. Braille tables. 1. Button.
Okay, let's double tap here.
English. U.S. System. Button.
So that is English US system. So
Add Braille tables.
okay, so you
Button.
can add Braille tables.
English,
So if we double
US
tap this,
System. Heading. English. UK. Selected. English. LibLouis. Heading.
the LibLouis Braille tables, I have not used it. So LibLouis apparently was some. It is not apparently. LibLouis is a free source Braille table provider, from what I've been able to gather through listening to other people, because I personally don't use, like, you'll find it on NVDA, and I think it's now made its way to JAWS as well. But I don't really use JAWS Braille input very much. I did a few years ago when I was typing up college papers and stuff like that, and that helped somewhat. But essentially what I'm getting is that LibLouis is available in both products. So from what I've heard, as far as LibLouis on the iPhone, there's still some bugs with LibLouis, so I would just kind of leave that alone. I mean, you can play with it if you want, but
English. Canada. LibLouis. Heading. English. UK. English. US.
so there's English US for the LibLouis Braille table, but the system heading. So we'll go by headings. So we'll go.
Words, speak, headings, liblouis, heading, system, headings,
So system. So that I think this is Apple's original Braille tables,
English, UK, selected.
and we have English US. So let's do a 2-finger scrub to get back out of here. Sometimes
English,
I have to do it
US,
twice
system,
too.
but English, Braille tables,
Okay.
heading,
Good. Whoa.
alert, Bluetooth is off.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, no,
No. Okay. We'll back out of here.
VoiceOver, back button, accessibility, VoiceOver,
Okay.
VoiceOver,
So another, I guess you could say, advanced to, I guess like a middle type of feature would be if you really quickly want to get to the top of the screen, you do a 4-finger tap. Now, of course, I believe, with all these customizable gestures, you can change most gestures, as we saw. And so if you want to get back down to the bottom of something, you do a 4-finger tap at the bottom. Now, let's touch on something before that we saw, and I kind of went away from it, but I need to go back to it, and that is reachability. So what is reachability? So essentially what reachability is it will, when you activate it, it will make it so the screen, the contents of the screen, so the top, if you will, kind of slides down on the screen. This is useful for individuals with dexterity issues, or motor issues. I know with myself, I have a tremor in my hands, mostly in my left hand, which is primarily my iPhone hand, but I am ambidextrous, so I can use my phone with both hands. But sometimes I'll have reachability on, but I don't really need it. And essentially, like I said, it brings down the screen, so you're able to touch the control or the time, for example, will be further down on the screen than it normally is. It's normally in the up top. But reachability is activated only for a few seconds, or until you double tap on a command, then reachability kind of goes away. But if you just leave reachability alone, let's say you bring reachability into focus or into reach, or however you want to word that, then after a couple seconds you'll hear descending sounds. So in order to activate reachability, when I was trying to do this, it was a little hard, but essentially what you have to do is you have to go at the bottom for iPhone 10 and above. You need to flick up, down, and you need to do flick up, flick down, and you need to do it really quickly, but you need to kind of do it almost twice. But you heard that sound, and so if I drag my finger.
VoiceOver, access 4:41 p.m.
Oh no, okay, so
back button,
reachability actually just deactivated. Oh, sorry. There we go. So now reachability is reachable. There we go. And now reachability just deactivated. So it's actually kind of interesting. I don't use it very much. The tremor in my left hand isn't that bad to be in need of it, but you can turn reachability on within the accessibility settings as well. But since they mention it within VoiceOver, that's why I mentioned it.
Accessibility.
And also double tap timeout. That's, since we're dealing with VoiceOver, they put a couple of settings in a weird place. Like, for example, double tap timeout. I get why they put it there, and essentially what that is, before I move on, is, let's say you double tap something and you have motor issues, or you have tremors or something like that, and you just need a little bit longer just to double tap than most people, then you can increase the time the phone registers a double tap, so you can make it a longer wait period. And so that's actually kind of cool for people with motor impairments. I haven't needed to use it, but I have tried it on a friend of mine who is blind and who has CP, and it didn't seem to work. But when I was training him, his best solution that I found, what worked for him best, and he found it as well, is just using an external one-hand braille display. So double tap timeout is an option. It's not always going to be the answer for dexterity issues, but it is a good solution. Now let's talk about braille screening. But we touched on it briefly, but there were just a couple things that I accidentally skipped earlier, and I needed to go back. So let's say I want to go into my Notes app, and I want to type out an outline. So I'm just going to use Siri. You don't have to use Siri, of course. Anyone who's listening, you can just go to Utilities folder, or you can just say open, or you can just go to Notes and double tap on Notes, and you'll have Notes opened. But there is one thing that I do want to say. Notes within iOS 13, they put your iPhone notes in a really weird place, and that is something that I know I had an issue with. But it basically, when you open Notes after you've closed it, it lands you in an empty folder. So I'll show you.
Utilities full.
I'm going to purposely close Notes.
Active settings.
All right.
Active
I'm going to double tap on Settings,
settings. Accessibility.
and you guys will see where I'm going with this. I'm just going back to the beginning of Settings. There we go. Now I'm going to close Settings.
Settings. Closing setting. Utilities folder.
All right.
20.
Open Notes.
Notes. New note. New note. Sort by date edited. Default.
So I'm essentially in iCloud right now. Why it lands me there, I don't know, but that apparently is a default behavior. I wish it didn't do that, because normally I would be landing in my iPhone Notes. So what I have to do, if I accidentally close, I have to do a two-finger scrub, select on this iPhone 67 or 8 or whatever notes, and then I have to go from there to find the correct note that I need. But this is fine for now. We'll create a new note.
No notes. New note. But new note. Note. Text field is editing. Insertion point at start.
Okay, so now I'm going to go counterclockwise.
Misspelled word edit. Typing headings. Braille screen input. Screen
Okay,
play mode.
so now I have the charge port to the left, and the phone is in landscape. Even though my orientation is locked to portrait, it goes into landscape. You can do it in. So there are two modes. There's screen away mode, and there's tabletop mode. Personally, I found tabletop mode to be a lot more responsive. I've tried screen away mode. It's just a little bit weird. But the way I know best to teach is tabletop. So we'll
Tabletop mode.
flip it so it's right side up, and we'll just I'll put it on the computer. What the heck? Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to do a dot calibration. And essentially what this does is it tells the phone, okay, your phone or your dots have been calibrated. Now we know where your fingers are. Now you can type. So it's important to do that. So to do the dot calibration, you do a 4, 5, 6 and a 1, 2, 3 in rapid succession. 4, 5, 6 being first. So I'll do that.
Dot positions calibrated.
There we go. Now I'll just type.
Dot sec cap HELO hello.
Now you notice that it said AHA instead of .2. They need to work. Apple needs to work on something here. I don't know why it's saying that. It apparently, obviously, .2 is also an EA sign in Braille, but it'll do for now. But it is kind of weird.
Quotation there. DD there. Dot street apostrophe.
Oops,
dot,
I mean.
dots 3 4.
Okay, so ST does not say ST. That's 3 4. It says street, which is a little weird.
Dot 6. Dot zip dots cap I M I'm T 1 P in typing U in using dots cap L braille dot cap B
Oops.
dots 1 B dots K dots 1
It's
3.
occasionally I will have to recalibrate.
L.
Oops.
Dots 1 LWH.
Okay, I just...
Space. Braille. L. Dot apostrophe dot 3.
And sometimes I have a
Dots
little
1 space.
bit of trouble
Space.
with...
Space.
Okay.
Space. Braille.
Braille screen input, but honestly, I think your best bet would be either tabletop mode or possibly or just do it on your lap.
Dot positions S C R E E N screen.
Input.
In P U T D D input.
Okay. So now let's say I want to get out of out of here. I can do that just by doing the rotor gesture.
Portrait.
There we go. Now it's back in portrait, and now I can go to the top.
Notes.
Yeah, by doing a 4-finger tap, and I just hit a 2-finger tap to stop speech. So I'll flick to the right.
Add people. Share. Done. April 19th. 20. Note. Text field. Is editing. Hello. There. I'm typing using Braille screen input. Insertion point at end.
There we go. And we just typed what we wanted to type. So I have used this to type out outlines, or an outline, and it works quite well. Once you get used to Braille screen input, it's a much faster way than dictation or than Flexi. I don't care what keyboard you want to choose. It's a lot faster, at least to me. But now I'm just going to do a 2-finger scrub.
Hello. Hello.
And I'm going to just delete this note.
Drag. Delete note.
There we go.
Empty list. Drag.
Okay. And now I'm going to exit the note app. The Notes app, rather. Okay, so that is... So essentially you can also go to the next line. In Braille screen input, by doing a 2-finger swipe to the right, you can, and the way I was doing a space, I'm sorry I didn't say this, but the way I was performing a space was just a 1-finger swipe to the right. You can, and then, let's see, you can change the grade input as well. So let me demonstrate that.
Headings.
Actually, let's open Notes. Open Notes. That's the best way. That way,
Notes.
That way I can just get a clean slate.
New note. New note.
There we go.
Note. Text field. Edit. Typing. Heading. Braille screen input. Screen away mode. Tabletop mode.
Okay, so if I do a 2-finger swipe to the... I'm sorry. A 2-finger swipe to the left. Nothing happens, but that is the backspace. So let's say I want to backspace a whole word. That is what that does. 2-finger swipe to the left is backspace a whole word. Backspacing just a character, a swipe to the left. 3-finger swipe to the left, what does that do?
6 dot.
So 6 dot contracted.
6 dot contracted.
Basically uncontracted and contracted. And you can lock the rotation. I believe it's a 3-finger swipe up.
Tab.
No, I'm sorry, that's a tab. When did that become available?
Orientation locked.
Ah, here it is. 3-finger swipe down.
Orientation unlocked.
There we go. So you can lock the orientation, and the 3-finger swipe up is a tab. So that's just some of the commands within Braille screen input. And so now I'm gonna
portrait.
Do a 2-finger.
Note. Text.
Get out of here.
April note. Heading not found. Note. New note. 4th sort. No note. Notes. More notes. Search. Dictate. Show gap. Sort. No notes.
Okay, perfect.
Utilities full.
So the 3-finger swipe down locks in your orientation regarding landscape versus portrait.
Yes, yeah. So it's...
What would lock in? Because I would use grade 1 Braille.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. What was the question?
I would use grade 1 Braille. How would I lock that in?
So you would want to select 6 dot, and actually, so this is a little interesting. That when Apple created the Braille input, it's not there. It's a little interesting because when you go to 6 dot, It's kind of like computer braille. Are you familiar with that?
Very little. I know the numbers are dropped down into, what would it be, 7 and 8 dots.
Yeah, there's a 6 dot and an 8 dot version of computer braille, but it's a little interesting. I had to learn it because I have a Braille Note Empower, and so some of the documents would say this is a text document. Computer braille is required, and so you would be forced to learn it. So I did learn it, and that's the way the Android phones have been for a long time. Which is why I've not gotten an Android phone, because I'm very passionate about Braille, and they just allow you. They're just starting on getting contracted Braille input in there, and Apple. So let's actually go into the Braille settings because you bring up a good point. So let's
Navigation folder.
open Braille settings. Can you do that?
Sorry, I did.
Well, that's dumb. Open VoiceOver settings.
Here are the settings for VoiceOver.
Okay, so let's go to Braille and let's see what we have for the Braille screen input.
Verbosity.
Okay.
Braille. Output. Alert.
Nope, I don't want
No.
Bluetooth on.
Button. No. But. VoiceOver.
All right.
Braille. Output. Contracted. Input. Contracted. Braille. Turn on. Braille screen input. Contracted.
Okay, so let's see what options we have here.
Uncontracted 6-dot Braille.
There's uncontracted 6-dot Braille.
Braille screen
Oh.
in. Uncontracted 6-dot Braille. Selected. Contracted Braille. Reverse dot positions. Off. Double tap to toggle setting.
You could reverse the dot positions. Basically, I believe so. That would mean that 4, 5, 6 would be on the left. 1, 2, 3 would be on the right. If you wanted to do that, I suppose you could do that.
In 6-dot and 8-dot Braille, the positions have dots 1 and 3, and dots 4 and 6 will be swapped.
Oh, okay. Well, why not just read the hint? Oops. Okay. I think I was correct, though.
In 6-dot.
Yeah, I knew one gal that prefers that because she holds it on her stomach, and so it's upside down, kind of.
Okay. And so that's basically all you have. So basically you have either computer braille or you have contracted braille. It's weird that they don't put grade 1 in there, but you can still type in grade 1. Just, I've noticed that when I have done that, I don't think there might be a way to do capital sign, but it's a little weird because when I was using a Braille note, now this is a completely different product, but it used computer braille, and what I would do for a capital sign would be, I believe it was spaced with U and dot 4, but that's again using a hardware keyboard, and that's a completely different device. But that's why I personally just stick to contracted braille. So to answer your question in short, there is not really a way, just strictly one uncontracted braille. But if you'd like to try 6-dot and see what you think of it, that would be the option that I would suggest.
Okay.
Okay, and so let's see here. So we'll
Braille. Back
back
button.
out of here.
Braille. Alert. Bluetooth. No. Button. On. Braille input. Contracted. Braille screen input. Contracted. Turn on Bluetooth. Braille tables. 1.
Okay.
VoiceOver. VoiceOver. Accessibility. VoiceOver. On.
Okay. So that's pretty much what I had to what I am aiming to teach everyone today. There are obviously a lot of different voices. If you don't like the voice that you're hearing through the interface, then you can obviously go to VoiceOver, and you can go to speech, and you can download as many voices as you want. And it's nice to see that they've expanded the speech, the voices to include three Indian voices as well. So English Indian voices rather. So you can go and select whatever voice you want, and you can have more than one voice as well. And
Do you find that some drain the phone faster than others?
I don't. I just really, I go and I find a voice that I really like, or there have been times when I've had like the Siri male voice, the English U.S. Siri male voice, as my voiceover voice, and there was one build where where iOS would delete the Siri voice for some reason, and all of a sudden I would lose the Siri voice and it would be back to Samantha, and I had it on Samantha as one of the voices for a while. But now I just have I have like my HomePod. I have that switched to the Siri male voice. No, I'm sorry. The HomePod's voice can't be switched, so that's automatically Samantha. Siri is the Siri male voice on my HomePod. But it is kind of interesting because the Apple Watch, unless you want to change the language, there's no really changing voiceover voices. Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, the Apple Watch is like that, and the HomePod is like that. But there's actually a lot of cool things that you can do with the iPhone. But do you have any further questions for me that I can answer?
Yeah, I noticed that you didn't need to say, "Hey Siri." I
Oh
would
yeah,
like to turn that off. If I could have you tell me how to turn that off, that'd be great.
sure, absolutely. So we'll do this. Open Siri settings.
Here are my settings.
Sometimes she'll even tell you to be gentle with her settings.
Siri suggest settings.
Okay, here we go.
Button.
So
Settings. Siri in search.
I'm
Heading.
just flicking to the right.
Ask Siri. Heading.
So we're Ask Siri.
Listen for Hey Siri. Off.
Okay, there you go. That's the button that you want to double tap on, where it says Listen to Hey Siri on. You want to double tap that to off. And so let's double tap that right now.
Suggestions
Oops.
and look. Set Siri. Ask Siri. Listen for Hey Siri. Off.
I'll double
On.
tap that. Okay, so now it's on, but
Press side button for Siri. On.
and you can of course. Okay,
Down. Listen for
well
Hey
I'm
Siri.
gonna turn that off because I don't want to confuse my HomePod.
Ask. Listen for Hey Siri. Off. Press side button.
Okay, that was easy enough.
Oh yeah.
Allow
Yep.
Siri when locked. Off.
Okay, so these are just personal settings. Like, I don't want people to access Siri when my phone's locked. I have my phone pretty strictly secure when it's locked. But that's under like the lock orientation. Like I have my phone only set to be unlocked for only 5 minutes, and I have it set to, if you enter in the wrong password 10 times, the phone will lock, and you have to wait a certain amount of minutes each time you get the password wrong for the phone to unlock. So it's actually it's nice, the security that you can put on this phone.
Great.
Awesome. Any other questions that I can answer, and about any apps or anything like that?
Oh, we could go on for hours, but I'm tired. So I do about an hour, and then my brain goes doing.
Okay.
But no, this has been super. I've been taking notes really, good. So I appreciate this. I look forward to next Sunday. Thank you. And if I come up with a question in the meantime, can I email you or?
Yeah, there's actually a number. It is 575-742-8613.
Okay, I think you had
And-
that in your initial email, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay.
I did, and that one that's a. I used to do a podcast. It was called Technology Wizard, but I still keep the name. That's the Technology Wizard free tech support line. So if you have any questions, anyone who's listening, they can call and ask any voiceover questions that they have. Let's say they were a basic voiceover user and they couldn't attend the meeting. Just to let everyone know, these meetings are recurring, so we will be joining back up next Sunday at 4 o'clock, same time. That's 4 o'clock Eastern.
Okay. Thank you very
Great.
much, Sean.
No problem. Thank you guys very much for listening to this presentation, and I will see you guys next week.
F4.